So you mean to tell me Clive Davis has passed away at the age of 94? I woke up shocked this morning because this man has single-handedly outlived majority of the artists he was connected to.
Leola Brown, Bobby Brown's sister, has said on several occasions that she was beaten. They saw her body. She didn't just die in a tub like...
Despite the coroner's ruling that her death was accidental, you will argue that the injuries found on Houston's body display clear signs of defensive wounds, suggesting she struggled against an attacker in an attempt to save her own life.
Saying that everything that happens in a business that's based off of pretend that seems like a setup is.
Clive Davis has passed away, and many Whitney Houston fans are saying it was long overdue. That may sound cruel, but those familiar with Clive's relationship with Whitney understand why so many people feel that way. There's no denying that Clive helped discover and develop some of the most legendary musical artists of all time, but both things can be true at once. He had a remarkable ability to recognize talent, yet he was also surrounded by controversy, facing accusations ranging from mishandling artists' money to allegedly playing a role in their deaths. Whitney Houston was one of the names often brought up in those discussions. Clive lived to the age of 94, while Whitney's life ended at just 48. The official explanation for her death has never sat right with many people, and a large number of fans still believe there was something much darker behind what happened to her. And it's not only the fans raising questions. Katt Williams has repeatedly said that when something in the entertainment industry appears staged, there's usually a reason for it. When a star as massive as Whitney dies under mysterious circumstances, many believe there's always
consecutive
someone
number
working
one
behind
hits
the curtain
on the
who
U.S.
stands to
Billboard
gain
Hot
from that
100.
tragedy.
Did you know?
Somebody
Everything that happens in a business that's based off of pretend, that seems like a setup, is.
In business, nothing is coincidental, or you will be hearing who's losing money. In all of these situations, it's only the artist that's losing. Somebody makes big money. When these rappers get killed, not incidental. Somebody made $100 million and now don't have to talk to that artist or none of their crew, don't have to validate none of their contracts. Now only got to deal with the mama, only got to see her once a year, and it's over. And the money goes up and up and up.
And when it comes to money, Clive Davis was among the people who gained financially after Whitney's passing. Here's why. Back in 2001, Whitney signed a recording agreement worth $100 million with Arista Records, the label run by Clive Davis. At the time, it was considered the biggest recording contract ever awarded in the music industry. Clive personally helped put the deal together, and it functioned as a massive advance that had to be earned back. In other words, Whitney was required to generate enough revenue through record sales before she could begin collecting additional royalty payments. However, by the time she died in 2012, reports suggested Whitney's financial situation had deteriorated badly. She was allegedly carrying millions of dollars in debt and depended heavily on Clive for financial assistance. Clive reportedly provided loans, helped cover mortgage-related obligations, and even financed rehabilitation treatments. In many ways, he had become more than a record executive. He was acting as a financial lifeline. According to several industry insiders, Whitney's estate still owed millions to Arista and Sony because of those unresolved balances. Now this is where many people believe things become suspicious. Right after Whitney's death, sales of her music exploded worldwide, bringing in enormous revenue for her estate. Much of that income went toward settling outstanding obligations, including advances and loans reportedly owed to Clive Davis and Sony Music. But here's the part that raises eyebrows. The estate is reportedly still paying down those debts. One music executive even claimed that Whitney's estate might not receive meaningful royalty payments for decades. That means Clive, or those who inherited control of his business empire, could continue benefiting financially from Whitney's catalog music, long into the future. Many critics say this follows a familiar pattern in the music business. When Michael Jackson passed away, estimates suggested he was carrying roughly $500 million in debt, much of it tied to large loans and business obligations. Yet within only a few years, his estate generated hundreds of millions of dollars and eventually surpassed the billion-dollar mark. A major reason was that his music catalog, likeness, and unreleased projects could continue generating revenue after his death. Because of situations like these, some people argue that when a once profitable artist stops producing major earnings, they can become worth more to certain interests after death than while alive. And that brings us to the circumstances surrounding Whitney's death and the unusual actions attributed to Clive Davis that evening. On February 11, 2012, just before the Grammy Awards, Whitney was found unresponsive in a bathtub inside her room at the Beverly Hilton Hotel. Early reports stated that she died as the result of an accidental drowning connected to heart complications and intoxication. But later accounts revealed that Whitney reportedly had several cuts, marks, and abrasions on different parts of her body that some observers interpreted as signs of a struggle. Forensic pathologist Cyril Wecht also noted that the water in the bathtub was reportedly extremely hot enough to potentially cause severe burns. So the question many people asked was this: are we really expected to believe Whitney chose to relax in water that hot? According to Wecht, a more plausible explanation was that she may have already been unconscious, or worse, before entering the tub. Speaking with ABC News, Wecht stated that he believed she was unconscious, dying, or already dead when she entered the bathtub, and that he did not consider drowning to be the primary cause of death. Then private investigator Paul Hubel came forward with similar claims, arguing that Whitney's injuries resembled classic defensive wounds. Hubel, a former police officer known for examining several celebrity deaths, suggested that Whitney may have been involved in an altercation with someone connected to the substances she allegedly consumed that night. According to Hubel, the marks on Whitney's body were so extensive that they resembled injuries sustained during a boxing match. "You can call it an accident if you want, but it doesn't add up to me," Hubel reportedly said. But the questions didn't stop there. Hubel also claimed he learned of surveillance footage from the Beverly Hilton that allegedly showed two men entering Whitney's suite on the night she died. When asked why authorities never pursued the reported footage, Hubel claimed that investigators and the coroner were satisfied labeling the death accidental and closing the case. At the same time, several other unusual incidents were being discussed both on the night of Whitney's death and during the days leading up to it. One of the most talked about involved a note Whitney reportedly handed to Brandy just 2 days before the Grammy Awards. Whitney unexpectedly appeared during an interview featuring Clive Davis, Brandy, and Monica and passed Brandy a handwritten note. Video footage of the encounter still exists today. What many people find unsettling is that, if you listen carefully, Whitney can allegedly be heard repeating the words, "I nearly drowned today. Not once but twice." Now let's focus on Clive's response after learning of Whitney's death, because this is where critics became especially vocal. After being informed that Whitney had been found dead in her hotel room, Clive announced that the Grammy after-party would continue as planned. Think about that for a moment. Whitney had just died upstairs, her body remained in the hotel, and meanwhile guests continued gathering downstairs to eat, drink, socialize and celebrate. Naturally, many people reacted with outrage. But Clive defended the decision, insisting that the event served as a tribute to Whitney and claiming it was something she herself would have wanted.
But the Grammys were the next night. You don't cancel. You turn an evening into a tribute.
However, Whitney's family members and close friends strongly rejected that explanation, insisting that continuing the celebration was the exact opposite of what Whitney would have wanted. One of Whitney's longtime friends in the music industry, Chaka Khan, openly criticized Clive's decision and described his choice to proceed with the event as completely outrageous. And Chaka went even further, arguing that Clive's claim that the event was meant to honor Whitney simply didn't make sense. In her view, if Clive truly wanted to pay his respects, the appropriate response would have been to gather everyone for a prayer and end the evening, not continue with a night of drinking, socializing and celebration.
Right.
And I think he took the decision to turn it into a tribute to her. And I understand that. I mean, he obviously was wrestling with the right thing to do.
That would have been right if it really was a true tribute, and and a true tribute, might have been a more honest tribute in my opinion, would have been maybe call everybody together, let's say a prayer, and let's eat dinner and go home. I couldn't get dressed. I was supposed to go to the party. I just got off a plane from Miami at about 5:30. As soon as I hit the tarmac, I found out, I heard, and I couldn't put on makeup. I couldn't get dressed. I couldn't do anything. I was paralyzed. I couldn't do anything.
All of this raises a question. Was there more to that party than people were being told? Why was Clive so determined to keep the event going no matter what? Over the years, numerous theories have surfaced, and one of the most widely discussed among certain Whitney fans is the belief that the gathering served a symbolic purpose following her death. Some people may dismiss that idea as far-fetched, but supporters of the theory often point to reports claiming that Whitney's body was not removed until after the celebration had concluded. According to a CBS News report, Whitney remained in her hotel room for several hours after first responders pronounced her dead. Meanwhile, downstairs, Davis's lavish pre-Grammy event continued as scheduled while investigators moved through the hotel and guests in tuxedos and designer gowns made their way across the red carpet. I also came across another report stating that Whitney remained in her fourth-floor suite and was not taken from the hotel until shortly before the party finally wrapped up, sometime after midnight. There's another detail about that evening that many people find unusual. Out of everyone present who knew Whitney personally, Clive Davis reportedly selected Diddy to address the crowd and deliver remarks during the event. Then, just days after the Grammy Awards, Diddy appeared on Ellen's show. When Ellen asked him about the speech he gave that night, some viewers felt he appeared uncomfortable and unusually nervous while responding. Take a look.
I know that you were one of the first ones at Clive's party to speak about Whitney's passing the other day.
Yes.
And that was, did you know her well?
Yes, I did. I actually, when I was growing up in the music industry before I had success, I somehow got on her wedding invitation. So I was at her wedding, but I didn't really know her.
Now, why would Clive choose Diddy, of all people, to speak about Whitney while her body was still upstairs in the hotel? Diddy was never known as one of Whitney's close friends. As a matter of fact, Diddy had previously made comments suggesting that Whitney played a role in Bobby Brown's downward spiral. And this is where the story becomes even more unusual. Once Clive's Grammy after-party finally ended, Diddy didn't head home like most of the other guests. Instead, he went on to host another music gathering at the Playboy Mansion that same night, and reports say he partied so intensely that he later ended up in the hospital. On February 13th, TMZ reported that Diddy had been hospitalized the previous evening. Music. After suffering a severe migraine shortly after returning home from the post-Grammy event he hosted at the Playboy Mansion. So according to that narrative, Diddy was supposedly mourning Whitney's death, yet he spent the entire night celebrating and partying. And that was the person Clive Davis selected to address the crowd about Whitney while her body remained upstairs. At this point, it's easier to understand why some people view the entire situation as deeply unsettling. Now, does any of this prove that Clive Davis was responsible for Whitney Houston's death? Absolutely not. But many critics would argue that these events make it difficult to believe he was acting entirely in her best interests. Anyway, I'd like to hear your thoughts on all of this. Do you agree with Katt Williams and those who believe certain industry deaths are connected to financial motives? Share your opinion in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.